So you receive a call to potentially list a property. After arriving, the seller tells you, I already have a buyer for this property and I want you to represent both parties. However, the seller has a relative that's an agent and they don't want their family member to find out that they sold the property through an agency. They do not want the property listed in the MLS. Are you required to enter the property in the MLS?
Well, I know. Yes.
Yes, the answer's already there. All right. So what if the seller tells you that if you're required to enter the property in the MLS, then we don't have a deal? What can you do?
Put it in withheld and then withdraw.
Yes. So Liz actually had this happen last week and another agent had it happen. So I thought it was a good time to talk about it. So you would put it in as withheld, and then once the property is closed, then you'd go in and withdraw the property. Anybody have questions about that? Many of you probably remember we used to have a thing called MLS exempt. And so the seller could sign the form and say, I don't ever want this property listed in the MLS, and it would just go away. But with all the new policies and rules, this is our only resolution to this issue at this point. But I do want to remind you, when you do it this way, you will not get credit in the MLS for the listing or the sale because it's not entered.
Well, withheld means it's not entered, but it sort of is in a way.
It's entered in what it's in as withheld. The only people that can see it are agents in our own organization. Okay, so, and the 3 fields that are required for withheld are beds, baths, and city. Those are the only 3 fields. So I just thought it was a unique situation. I had it happen 2 times last week. And I finally called Tracy and said, okay, how are we going to deal with this? We don't want to lose it. We don't want to lose a transaction over the fact because MLS is mandating their policies to us.
True.
Lynn,
Yes.
just a reminder that it does go to RE/MAX International Award reporting because it goes through our system and we feed our information to them.
That's good to know. Did everybody hear what Mary said?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you will get credit through RE/MAX, just not through our local MLS. Does anybody have a question?
I have a quick question. If it's commercial,
That scenario,
oh, sorry. I was just going to say, if it's commercial, we do the same thing.
Yes, same thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Rita?
did that satisfy the seller?
Yes, it did, right, Liz?
Yeah. Just he was fine with that. He just didn't want, because it's a long story. Commercial's different down here. Everybody gets weird. So anyway, that's what I'm going to do.
And the other scenario, it was a residential property and they wanted to sell it, but they had an agent, a family member, but they just didn't want them to see it go through the MLS and start a problem. This way they could say, well, we just handle it on our own. We didn't need an agent. So it satisfied them. They wouldn't have an issue with the family member.
So Lynn, if it's withheld, the only people that can see it are people in this office?
Yes.
You know, all RE/MAX Gold, right?
Correct. Same
Well,
way
the other-
with incoming, we can see it, but others can't. And I'll elaborate just a little bit on that. We're currently working on a system where any listings that are coming in that are withheld status, the MLS changed their policy. We used to be able to call a Coldwell Banker agent or a Keller Williams and say, hey, got a new listing. I thought you might be interested. You cannot do that anymore, but you can call agents within our own company
I
and
saw
tell
that.
them about your new listing. However, I did the other day, I'm trying to recruit this agent and I said, so what kind of listings do you have coming up? Because the rule doesn't stop me from calling and asking them. It prevents them from having a listing and calling and telling me.
But that's terrible.
I know, we don't like it, but it's, they're saying that this is mandated from NAR.
If you think about it, that's worse than a pocket listing, actually.
I agree, Liz. I agree.
They've made the situation worse because they're trying to get involved in what they don't understand. But that is a absolute positive pocket listing. And that's sad because, but they make us do stuff we don't want to do.
Right. So if you remember years ago, we had that, go back to that status of MLS exempt. They were allowed to put a sign out in the yard. You could call Maris and they could look it up and tell you what the price was and that sort of thing, but it's all been eliminated now.
Liz, just go back for a second on this, on the question, and the answer says you can also enter as closed. If you do enter it as closed, then that family member will be able to find it at that.
Yeah, you
point.
So you
can't
don't want to close it. You want to
Yeah,
withhold
but
it.
it says but your answer says you could enter
You
it as
could.
closed
Yeah,
to
you
use it
could.
as comps, which is kind of a nice thing to do, but not in this scenario.
Not
No.
listening.
Correct. Yeah, I get you. I get it.
Just want to make sure that you could, that you don't
Yeah.
think that once you have it in as without, you can't.
That's
But
good.
in this
That's
scenario,
good
you
to
wouldn't
know.
want to do that.
That's
That's
good
right.
to know. It's just annoying that who's wagging the tail of the dog, It's just terrible that we deal with
Yes.
people that don't touch what we're supposed to be doing. So anyway, that's
Agreed.
enough said.
Okay. All right, on our next question, you represent the buyer. The seller's disclosure statement and the lead-based paint are attached in the MLS. Your buyer signs the documents and your offer is accepted. Our dear Lexi, she audits the file and discovers that the lead-based paint form is outdated. Now what?
Do it again.
Again, get
Yeah.
a new one.
Mhm. So first, the house was, in this scenario, the house was built before 1978, so the form is required by law, not just us, but it's by law. And second, anytime you use an outdated form, it's considered a not valid form. And you would not be covered by E&O because E&O says what? You have to use current valid SLAR approved forms. And in this case, it's an EPA violation.
Yeah.
So here's some things you could do. In writing, request the listing agent send over the corrected lead-based paint form. In writing, send your buyer an email explaining the agent provided an outdated form. Keep all of your correspondence, including email, conversations on the phone, text, and include anything you can in your file. And if in doubt, you can't get them to cooperate, I want you to call me so I can call the broker, which is what I did last week. After our agent tried many times and kept getting, I'll get it over there, I'll get it over. When I called the broker, she had no idea that was going on and had no idea how the agent had an outdated form.
Because she had it in her files at home and she used it, I guess.
That's right, Diana, most likely. Yeah.
Hey, Lynn,
Yeah, Mary.
can I just ask?
Yeah,
does
of course, I
everybody
want you to.
understand
Yeah.
what the lead-based paint states when it says that it has to be presented on or before contract acceptance?
That's what I was going to ask. Yeah.
Right, so if you present an outdated one, you're at fault. If you accept an outdated one, you're still falls under this guideline. But I think it's something that sometimes we just aren't, we have it or they've loaded it and we pull it down and we don't pay attention to the date or whatever. But now you're in a scenario where you have a new form that's not dated correctly, right?
Yeah, so years ago, the law said that by not doing a proper disclosure, it was a $10,000 fine plus additional, it could be jail. So they've removed the words jail, and now the fine is up to $16,000.
Is that
So,
per
and that,
line- per line
what
item?
Liz?
Is that per line item?
It was.
It's up to them, but here's the thing.
Wow.
That lead-based paint is not covered under E&O, okay?
Ooh.
That is on you. If it's $16,000, so that's why it's really make sure that you are using the correct form. And fortunately, we have a wonderful auditors that caught that, but
Thank God.
I get it. You've got it out of MLS, you pulled it down, you printed, you've got them sitting there, you're trying to get everything signed, you're pushing documents through, and it's an easy thing to overlook, the new form. Any questions about that?
I'm assuming you just put the original date you did the first one. You put that date, say,
Well,
even if
it
it's a couple weeks.
probably would require an amendment, Liz.
Okay,
Because
that's what
it's supposed to be produced at the time, you know, you're writing the offer, so that's why it's an MLS. They're supposed to have it in there in the correct form.
So
But
what date would you put on the new one?
It's just like if you have a counter offer or your contract is accepted after the deadline, you would have to acknowledge that all parties acknowledge that the form was signed on blah, 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 blah. That puts it in writing.
Correct.
So you have to do an amendment.
But again, would you put the new date or the old date on the new
The
one?
new date with the amendment.
Okay, thank you. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah, because if you put the old date on, they could come back and say, I didn't sign this on that date. I didn't, you know, that puts you in that whole other scenario of advising somebody to put wrong
Okay.
dates, you know.
This is a question about lead-based paint, but not necessarily what you're discussing. The commercial property I'm selling that I had to do the, withheld and withdrawn and all that. It is 2 residential properties and a loft and a commercial down below. I asked the owner, I said, do you have lead-based paint in place for your renters? And he goes, I don't know what you're talking about. And I was like, oh God. So my new buyer, because I have the buyer, and I told him, I said, before you come, I want to make sure you put this in place. Is that correct? Because he has to have it in. Now, can I use the form I have, or does he need to get his
No,
own?
you can use the form you have, and you have the buyer, so you're doing the protecting side by getting the lead-based signed by them, advising them to check it out.
Okay.
Commercial doesn't fall under the lead guidelines, except for in the scenario where it is occupied residentially, it's a
Correct.
combo.
Yeah,
you
that's
know?
what usually I don't have to worry about it, but in this particular case, there's 2 apartments.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
I
here's
can use
another
that.
scenario I want to talk to you about. Some people say, well, the house was built in 1980. No, I don't need that. Guess what's happening today? You've got people going out in the country and getting this barn wood and using it in the basement, like, what's it called, shiplap or whatever.
Yeah,
And it's a decorative pieces of wood. Guess what that barn wood was painted with?
lead-based paint. Lead-based paint.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, wow.
So
I
when
never
you're
even
thinking,
thought about
well,
that.
So when you're thinking that's really not applicable, I would do it on everything and just keep myself safe. Yeah, when you see that barn wood, a lot of it, it's even kind of peeling and, it gives it that rough look or whatever. That's what people like.
That's true.
So it's a new fad. Keep that in mind. Okay, we're gonna move on to question 3. This just happened. So you represent the buyer. And you're writing an offer on a special sales contract. The property's going to be torn down. During a conversation with the listing agent, you mentioned that the survey will be taking place this week. The listing agent responds, survey, you can't have a survey. You used a special sale contract. Now what?
Well, I can't.
It's in the contract, isn't it?
It's not in the
It is in
contract.
the contract.
I was thinking it
is. So
was.
it's
Yeah.
attached.
All right.
And you know what? Here's what kind of was concerning is this agent, this listing agent's been in the business a while, so it wasn't like she was new. But she was like, you're not having a survey, you can't have that.
Well,
So my
that's okay.
concern was that maybe there was an amendment or something floating around somewhere that moved the survey. So, and in this particular instance, it was important to have a survey.
They were hiding something.
Yep.
Yeah, when
But
they act,
I wanted to call
I-
attention, there are many differences in a special sale contract versus a regular. So when you have time, you might want to sit down and compare the two. We may do a test on it next month about the differences in the two contracts.
I think that'd be a great idea.
I think for
Okay.
everyone, Lynn, for everyone in our company, really.
Yep.
They really.
Okay,
do.
okay, so you're writing an inspection notice. And you write in, buyer requests the seller to replace the hot water heater. Are those words okay? Is that an okay request?
No,
No, I'd probably be more detailed, but
Me too.
Carol, I heard you say no. Why did you say no?
because it usually requires, at least it did in my house, maybe not everywhere, but to replace the water heater, it had to be inspected by the county.
That's true.
It
So,
usually has to have a permit.
Right.
Yeah, oh,
Really?
absolutely.
And-
Wow.
and now
Something I want to tell you about the word request. That is not a good word to use. I can request it, you can request it all you want, but unless I agree to it, so I'd like to see you remove that word request and be more specific. But also, like you said, you want a licensed plumber, you want tax liens and waivers, blah, blah, blah. You need all that extra. And specifically, what else you want? Are you wanting a 40-gallon or a 60-gallon? Because if you tell them to replace it
Right.
and it's a 60-gallon, what if they replace it with a 40? You weren't specific enough.
That's-
I usually put similar or, like the one they're replacing, something like that.
I put the gallons on it before, yeah.
Really? I've
That's
never,
good.
done-
Yeah, because I think, you could end up, they could just get some cheap thing and put it in there,
Right, exactly.
They could have Uncle Bud come and put something in, you just need to say who you want to have, make sure it's done professionally too, with
Right.
permits and everything, yeah.
I always suggest sometimes when you're writing out an inspection notice and you're hesitating about whether or not you've covered it, like that happens often, you might take it up and say, hey, Jamie or whoever, Lexi, would you read this paragraph and tell me what it says? Don't
That's
tell them
great.
what you want it to say. Ask them what they're reading. That's a really good clue to you what you're really asking for, okay?
Very good. Good.
Okay. Okay, so number
No.
5, you represent the buyer. There's a Viking microwave in the kitchen. It's probably at Carol's house. The building inspector noted that the light bulb doesn't work and they're very expensive to replace. You prepare the inspection notice and say seller will replace the light bulb in the microwave. The buyer moves in and the light bulb doesn't work. You call the listing agent and the listing agent says, you asked to have the light bulb replaced and the seller complied. What could you have done to prevent this from happening?
Be more specific.
Right. I can tell you this happened and the light bulb didn't work because the microwave didn't work. And so, yeah. And as you know, Viking microwaves are very expensive. So be careful what you ask for. You asked for the light bulb to be replaced and that's what they did.
Oh,
Anyone have something want to add to that?
Did the inspector not notice that the microwave didn't work either?
He just opened the door and the light bulb didn't come on.
So he didn't try to
Because it's
operate. the
Viking.
microwave.
Yeah, right?
So
Because
the
it's
agent
Viking, he
could've
just
got it on the
assumed the light bulb
walkthrough.
had burned out. Yeah, he didn't test it. Mm-mm.
You can kind of go back on the inspector a little bit on that, couldn't you? He should have
Yeah.
tested that.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
and
what
some
I-
inspectors might say, hey, I made a mistake, but you know, I'm just trying to be proactive.
Well, on their
Could have
walkthrough, they
checked it
could have
on the
opened the
walkthrough.
walkthrough could have opened the microwave, and if the bulb didn't work then, they know there was a problem. 'Cause they're
Right,
supposed to
make it
sign all
do
that
it.
walkthrough stuff out now.
Yep.
Anything
Well,
there,
I like doing this because these are all actual scenarios. So I had a lot of them this month and I didn't put them all down, so I'll be able to share a lot more with you next month. It's been busy, which I love. All right, so it's number 6, you represent the buyer. Based on the building inspection, the roof needs to be replaced. What are the best words for the building inspection notice? On a roof, you've been told the roof needs to be replaced. Let's talk about words again on the replacement of the roof. So I'm going to tell you, if this were me, I would probably recommend my roofer that I've used before. I will tell you what happened. This was last year, the year before. We asked to have the roof replaced and the seller went down to Lowe's and there were pallets down of shingles that were red and they were less than half price. And that's what they used. And it didn't match, and who wants, you know, I don't think anybody really wants a red roof. Maybe they do, but in this case, we didn't. So we gotta
Lynn?
be careful. Yes.
Is there ever an issue with insurability with roof?
Could be. Yeah,
so
there's absolutely.
I feel
And
like we had a scenario.
I would-
yes, that too, but also you have to be specific about, it's a little bit less expensive to have just shingles put over the top. Do you want the old shingles removed and new shingles applied? So, and this is happening a lot right now because we've had some hail and some storms move through. So I thought it was a good time to talk about roofing. Neil had a very unique situation last year because he was in a historical area of the central West End with a slate roof. Neil, do you want to elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, called New York Red Slate, and just to repair the roof was $250,000.
Right.
That's just to repair it. That wasn't to replace it.
Oh my God.
To
Yeah.
replace it, it would have been so cost prohibitive. But the good news is the seller was able to get an insurance claim on that. And so the insurance paid that $250,000. And it didn't cost the buyers anything. It didn't cost the seller anything.
Perfect.
Was that a building? Wow,
That was a house in the
House.
Central West End, a mansion.
my
Was it a
goodness.
slate roof?
Yeah.
Was
red
it a slate roof?
New York Red Slate, one of the most expensive of all
I
the
was gonna say
slates out there.
That's
Yeah.
nice.
My father was a slate and tile roofer for Kerberg Roofing for 48 years. He worked for the father, the son, and everybody. But
Holy Ghost.
yeah, and that's I always say Holy Ghost. Anyway, but
So there's a couple things here with this scenario with Neil. And when you see that little sign on the front of the house, or you read about it, that it's historical, be prepared that that takes a lot of extra approvals to go through because the city
Yep.
has to approve these. And typically they don't allow a color change, right, Neil, on something like that. They want to
Not
keep it.
there, not there.
original.
Nor would they allow any type of substitute material.
Yeah.
Technology's come up with some good alternate materials now, but that, you know, Central West End, the Historical Society is so influential that the city said, we're not, you know, you have to have the same tile, just the same.
Wow.
It was pretty hairy.
Fortunately, they probably still make it.
Yeah, yeah. and
Well,
they-
but you know what? It's in the middle of COVID and supply chains were, right, Neil? We were dealing with that issue as well, and getting the product was a big
Yeah.
deal.
It got done. It looks beautiful now, I'll tell you that. And the buyers.
I think this, Neil, that was great. Thanks for sharing that. But I want to remind you, again, we've just had hail, we've had all kinds of things going on. If the roof needs to be replaced, be sure you're being specific about what you're asking for. Not new roof with this shingle. Do you want the old removed? And you want the debris taken off the property? You know, there's all kinds of, you have to think the whole story through when you're asking for a roof to be replaced.
I went through that a couple of years ago.
I remember. Okay, so number 7, you represent the seller. You receive multiple offers and several of the offers have an escalation clause. The offer you plan to accept reads, must provide a copy of the competing offer. What are your options? So one of the options that I'm recommending to when an agent calls me about this is counter back, remove the escalation clause, and use the price that they've said they're willing to go to. In this market, it will work most of the time. So here's what happened. One of our agents is in a multiple offer situation. She happened to be the buyer. She had an escalation clause and she wanted to see the other offer. The listing agent, we got the deal. The listing agent sends over the other offer completed with all of the names of the agent and the buyers. And all of the terms were included. And guess what? You can get in big trouble for that. That's a confidentiality break right there. So if you accept that counter offer that you're going to provide the other offer, you better really be careful that you're taking out the names, not only the names of the buyer, but the names of the agent. And I'm going to tell you, as I'm sitting here right now, last week I was here with an agent and someone asking to see someone else's contract. What's to stop me from getting on Forms or Us and banging out whatever I want? Because I don't have to put the names or anything in there. If you're going to start off with not trusting the other agent, I just
don't take the offer. Don't work the offer. I don't know.
How many of you are using an escalation clause at this point?
I could see where
Sometimes not,
I am.
really not, but you know, sometimes that's what the buyer insists on.
Right. I really try to discourage it, but I'm with you, Mona. Sometimes they just don't want to hear about it. That and write a letter. It's just like this big argument right now.
They can write a letter, doesn't mean I'm sending it.
That's right.
Oh.
Write the damn letter all you want to. I'm not sending it.
You mean if you,
It's in the dead letter for pile.
are you saying you would not send an offer if you use the escalation clause?
No, I wouldn't send the letter, the little letter that they want me to send along with the offer. Lynn says we're not supposed to do that, and I'm not sending it.
I'm going to tell you, that's not my rule. That is the National Association of Realtors policy.
Right.
And their claim to that, and this came straight from their legal counsel, is there is an opportunity for discrimination by doing that. Now to say, hey, I got this cute dog and my Hannah's she's gonna love playing out in your backyard and blah, blah, blah. Okay. But all they said is they don't want the agents involved in the crafting of the letter. And they also prefer that the agent's not involved in handing the letter over to the client.
I would never, I hardly ever did. I don't even think I ever did that because I didn't think it was right from the very beginning. So I don't.
So this comes up a lot today.
You know, I've used that myself now. In the past, I used it.
And there for a while, people were taking pictures of their clients sitting in the front yard with their puppy and their little kids and all that sort of thing. And I'm just.
I mean,
gonna
I
say
didn't get
right
involved
now,
in
be
it, but
careful.
I didn't write it, but I did send it. What you're saying, do
You got a
that
couple
anymore.
who was willing to pay more and the seller took a different offer for less. And they happened to say, the buyer says, wait a minute, I think they discriminated against us. I can tell you that letter's gonna surface and it's gonna track back to who disseminated, who handed it off.
That's a
Never
really
thought of-
good point.
I
It's a
actually never
different.
thought about it like that, but I can
Will
see.
tell
your point.
you, if you're ever accused of discrimination, you are guilty. And you will have to prove you didn't do it.
Isn't that sad?
Yeah, well, that's how it is.
Real world.
All right, so number 8. You represent the sellers. You receive an offer from Mr. Smith and your seller accepts his offer. During the inspections, you discover that the buyer is not Mr. Smith. It is We Buy Houses and Tear Them Down, LLC.
Oh, no.
Your seller is furious. They had multiple offers and elected to take Mr. Smith's offer because they thought he would be residing in the property. Is that legal?
Yes.
It is.
You're right. It is legal. There's an assignability clause. Yep. So that assignability clause reads, so I want to buy a house that Carol Camerata owns, but I don't want Carol to know that I'm the buyer. So I get Lexi to go in and get an agent, write the offer. After it's accepted, she assigns it to me. About 3 weeks later, I call Lexi and go, you know, Lexi, I've changed my mind. I don't want that house. Guess what? Lexi's on the hook.
Yep.
Oh,
So
In today's market, that'd probably be all right. She could probably sell it to somebody else.
you're right.
But,
Good one.
but,
Yeah.
Good
Now,
point,
the only
Mona.
time that could change is that Carol was gonna finance the house or a portion of the house for Lexi, because she likes her and she's having a baby and she thinks she's cute and all that. And she's like, you know what, Lexi, I'll finance part of that for you. Now, if she goes to assign it, she would have to let Carol know.
Yeah, that's true.
and get approval.
And approve.
Hey,
Yeah.
Lexi.
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
Lexi, you are cute and you are pregnant, but I don't finance anybody's stuff.
I don't blame you.
I don't
I
find it.
appreciate it.
I'm not a loan company.
Well, I want to bring this up. So again, the other night here with multiple offers, this older couple sitting here, very nice. And we're looking at these offers and an investor's offer is cash and the other offers are financing. And so we have this financing contingency. We have appraisal writers. We don't have that on the cash. But the missus says, you know what? I would really like for a person to buy it who's going to live there. Here's the problem. We can't say that they're going to live there because of that assignability clause. You could send somebody else out to buy it, make the seller think that this young person that has the dogs and all that, this is going to be a nice deal, and they assign it to a flipper.
You can take that assignability out. You could counter that.
That's right. You could, Mona. Thanks for saying that. Yes, you could.
Is
But
that
nothing's to
practicing
stop
law?
them from closing and the next day sell it to that person, you know.
True.
But people get emotional ties,
Oh,
especially to a home they've been there 30 or 40 years. They don't want somebody coming in and tearing it down or redoing it. So
that's my problem right now. I don't want to sell my home because I know they'll tear it down and build a new one. And I can't do it. I've lived on the same street. I've lived in this house 54 years and I don't want to see it torn down when I'm living.
oh, okay.
I'll buy it.
Diana, take the money, baby.
No, it's just, my husband grew up here. I grew up, it's the whole thing. I just don't, there's so much, memories in this yard, and so it's a big yard.
All
Diane,
right, so
I'll
number,
buy it. I'll buy it and not tear it down.
Okay.
okay, there you go. Mona's got cash too. I'll write the offer.
Hey, don't be stepping on me.
Okay, number 9, you represent the seller. All contingencies have been met. The buyer's agent schedules an appointment for the final walkthrough. Your seller requested you, the seller's agent, to be present during the final walkthrough. The buyers are not present. The buyer's agent begins taking photos and videos. And while they're walking around and taking all these pictures and videos, they go over and they start the dishwasher. 2 questions. Can the buyer's agent take pictures and video?
Not without the seller's permission.
Correct. And I prefer you get that in writing. Right, send the seller an email and say, hey, the buyer's agent's going to do the final walkthrough. Can they take pictures? And to elaborate on that, I hope I never have to hear that one of our agents did a final walkthrough for their buyer. There is so many things you could get in trouble for and cause litigation, because what if you miss something? Whose fault is it?
Yours, of course.
Yep. All right, so can the agent run the dishwasher while they're walking around taking all these pictures and?
I don't know.
Not if it wasn't a problem on the building inspection.
Yep, right. I don't think you can go around turning things on and do, because you know what, I'm gonna tell you, even though this is final walkthrough day, do you think the seller could still have cameras going, running?
Absolutely.
Yep.
But
Do you think they might get mad?
Yes.
It depends on your seller, but in this case, they were not happy. There were a lot of other things that happened during this inspection, but all it did was just cause more and more issues. So what I'd like to see you do, if you have the buyer, even if it's a great idea to use the SLAR final walkthrough notice. It's good, it covers you too. Your buyer walked through with you. They didn't see anything else that was wrong. What if there was some things wrong? Can I bring the inspector with me that did the inspection? Can I have them do the final walkthrough with me?
Yes. Yes.
Yes, yes, ma'am, you can. Can I bring my mom along?
Nope.
No.
Not if she wasn't at the original inspection.
That's right. So here's what I'm going to tell you. Berkshire Hathaway, and I'm getting this because Mona says I need to be more, get this out. So I'm going to caution you about Berkshire Hathaway Alliance. They have their own final walkthrough notice.
Oh,
And guess what? Guess who it covers?
them.
Them, you betcha. And guess what? It is not a SLAR approved form. It's written up by, it might be written up by an attorney. I don't care. It's not approved by SLAR. What's our E&O say? We must use SLAR approved forms, right?
Right.
So if I got that form from Berkshire Hathaway Alliance, I am not going to have my people sign it. I'm gonna call them and say, hey, you used the wrong form. We only use SLAR approved forms. So if you want to if you're contesting something in the house, I need you to put it on the SLAR approved form. Because their form not only is for their buyer and their company, it gives them rights to come back later. It's just simply something you should not be using.
Wow.
Is Alliance the only one using them that we know of?
That I know of, yep.
Okay.
But always look at the top of your form. If you're
Wow.
using forms, it should say, this is, this is St. Louis Association of Realtors, approved by legal counsel, blah, blah, blah.
So Berkshire is asking the buyer's agent to use their form. Is that what I'm understanding?
Right, and their buyer's agent, Berkshire Hathaway in this scenario, had the buyer, and there was something discovered during the inspection by this buyer's agent. So she went back and used their form and submitted it to us, which totally put all of everything back onto the seller. Where the slaughter farm gives you options, there wasn't an option for a seller, really. It's just, you're gonna fix it, and if it's not fixed right, you'll be responsible later. You know, this is, it's created to protect their buyers.
The contract already says that.
Exactly. There's one line in the sales contract that says, buyer, just because the buyer closes doesn't relieve the seller from their obligations.
Right.
So why recreate more words that are necessary?
Yeah.
Oh, it's CYA, because I don't want to lose my license.
No.
Had it too long.
Lynn, can I ask a question?
Yeah, I want you to.
Where is it written that you can't take a picture in the house? I
will
just
get
want
it
to
for
say
you.
that
It's
because
yeah,
the
I will get
buyers
it for
do
you.
this. The
I will get
buyers
it for
do
you.
this, and you counsel them not to, and the next thing you know, they're doing it.
Yeah, and I'm gonna tell you this, currently, the way things are, Mona, I personally think that more people have cameras in the house than don't. And if I'm taking a buyer in a house, I'm gonna give you a notebook and an ink pen, and I'm gonna say, Neil, when we go through, I don't want you to talk about this is, oh my gosh, this is gonna be great for the dogs and the da. Anything, all your comments, I want you to write everything down, and once we get back into my car, we'll discuss it. Because everything you're saying in the house is being recorded. That's how you should walk into it, under that.
I tell them before we go in, don't talk about anything. Just
That's right.
talk when we get outside, don't make a comment.
Many years ago, I had an agent who did that. Really, to me, it wasn't really bad what she said, but the seller gave the agent the recording. And it was something like, well, this agent always overprices all of her listings. So when we go back, well, yeah, and she was threatening to take us to the board, and I knew the agent, fortunately, and I'm like, you know what? I don't think she really didn't mean that. It was late, they're tired, but just, you have to be really careful what you say today.
So
Also,
my
but-
question is still the same. What precludes us from a buyer taking pictures in a home? Where is the rule on that?
I'm gonna get that, I will get that for you. It's in writing, and I will get it. I'll get you a copy of it.
Good, because I want to be able to go, look, this is against the rules. Don't put me in jeopardy.
I will get it for you. And sometimes I see agents that are showing property, and they're taking pictures of things inside of a seller's house. And I had an agent do this. It was a clown collection, and she posted it on Facebook.
Oh my
Happened to be
God.
friends of somebody's friend of
Wow.
that seller, and
Hey,
guess what?
hey, Lynn.
It came back on me.
Lynn and Mona, on the listing agreement under number 8 of owner acknowledges, it says, understands recording, remote monitoring, or transmitting audio, video of prospective purchasers or their representatives may result in a violation of state, local, and/or federal laws from owners.
But it's not a violation in the state of Missouri. They can do it, and I will get the words for you.
So it's in
Okay.
the listing, not the say.
There is some
No.
verbiage in there,
No.
so as you know, everything's written in a
It's
very
not the
gray area.
Because the buyer doesn't see that. All you would, if
what I
you felt
was
like
thinking.
you needed to
That's why I
take
didn't know.
pictures, if you need pictures or video, what you need to do is email the listing agent and get it in writing that you have their approval. That's your protection.
That's
Thank
only.
Okay, we're gonna move on to question 10. So I get these calls every weekend, anywhere from 2 to 5 calls. Okay, so I know you've read it, it's changed again, so we're gonna go through. How many business days do you have to enter a listing as active coming soon or withheld?
I don't know.
2 days? I don't know.
That's what I always thought, Liz.
Okay, it's 5.
Oh, God, thanks, God.
And it's business days. So I'll tell you a little secret that I've been seeing. I've noticed that agents are putting signs out, and doing things on Thursday morning. So me being the little tattletale, I get on the phone and I call and go, hey, I saw so-and-so put the listing out on Thursday. They put the sign out and blah, blah, and it's still not in the MLS. So MLS says they wanted me to go take a picture. I'm like, no, they'll know who I am. But so they put it in on Thursday. Days don't start counting until Friday, just like our contract works. Put the sign out Thursday morning. Days don't start till Friday. And it's business day, so weekends don't count.
Ah, so they got it sold before they even put it in.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, if you
But I didn't think
publicly
you could
market
show
the
a,
list,
coming soon.
what?
I didn't think you could show a coming soon property.
You can't. No, you cannot.
So I've got a listing today. I'm doing photos. I've got it under withheld. I can put I don't have to put a coming soon out. I can just put the active listing sign out and show it all weekend long.
Not
if I want
withheld.
to.
No, not withheld.
Not withheld.
So I can take the
you can-
withheld
wait,
out
wait,
of it.
wait. You can show a withheld. Okay, you cannot show a coming soon. But you can show a withheld. That's the difference. All right. But you can't market a withheld.
I can't put a sign out.
No.
So I
Let's see
can
what
put the
they're
sign out.
Well, the secret is that, okay, let's finish these questions because we're going into the
Alright,
next
sorry.
question. We'll go through it. So if you publicly market the listing, for example, you put a sign out, you do an email blast, how many business days do you have?
1.
5.
That's right. You can have 1 and you
Oh.
cannot use the withheld status.
You're
That's-
using active.
Mhm.
Okay. Makes sense.
Okay, number 12, when do you need to use the marketing options form? When?
Withheld coming.
Fine.
So it's only required if the listing will be withheld, but may be used with every new listing at broker's discretion. And Lexi doesn't require it if you're going active. So,
soon.
yeah.
You know what,
It's
then
not-
about that form, if you made it a practice to hand it out, it does give the explanation of each of those statuses on that form,
It does.
you know?
Yep.
So, okay, what if you have it withheld and they call and say, you know what, I'm ready. Do I need a form showing?
Okay,
that
so that's part 2. It's not necessary to update the form if the listing goes from withheld to coming soon.
No, active, come from withheld to active.
That's the same thing.
Same thing.
Same thing, isn't it?
If the seller sends you an email and says, I want you to go ahead and make it
Yeah.
active, I'm
Yeah,
cool with
they
that.
call me and say, I'm ready to go. So
Shoot me an email or text and I'll make it active when I get to the office. That's
It's
what I-
kind of like a closing, when you have that closing date on or before, so you're
Yes.
good up to that date. And this kind of is the
Yeah.
same concept that you can.
Yes, right.
Mona had a question.
So I DocuSign in every one of my withhelds that says we'll go on to MLS as soon as we're ready and pictures are available.
Uh-huh.
So
You're
I don't
correct.
have them send me anything because I DocuSign that in because I started getting a question about I don't want to be in withheld all the time. And I'm like, no. We're going to put it in as soon as we're ready. But MLS says I always told them 2 days. Now I'll correct that and say 5 business days. And if we're not ready, I got to have this form.
But remember, the only people that can see your withheld is Remax Gold.
Shit, I
And we
never
don't
put
even
it
know
in
the address.
MLS until I'm actually ready.
Right, so you're only putting in the Bed Bath and City, not even the address for withheld.
I'm not doing anything.
Okay, well, you have 5 days, so you're good. How many days do you have to enter a coming soon listing?
21.
Mm-mm.
Oh, it goes active after 21.
So you have 5 business days from the date of the contract, or 1 business day if you're doing public marketing. Will the days on market be calculated?
No,
Not until it
That's
goes
right.
active.
When does a coming soon listing automatically change to active?
21.
21 days, yeah.
The only thing I know.
Lynn, you said coming soon doesn't accumulate days on market. Does withheld accumulate?
No,
Okay, that's what I want. That's fine.
for those of us who've been in the business a long time, withheld, in my opinion, is the closest to an MLS exempt that you can get.
Pretty much.
Yep.
That's, to me, that's pocket.
Can you show a coming soon listing?
No.
Oh,
No.
No, however, you can set up showing time to allow pre-scheduled showings on or after the expected active date. So if you're watching for a listing that you saw is coming soon, they can go ahead and open it up so that you can schedule your appointment,
Correct.
okay? I just want to make sure everyone knew that you could do that. How many days do you have to enter a withheld listing?
I thought you said 5, but I don't know.
It
2?
is 5, and the days on market are not calculated. How long can a listing remain in a withheld status?
Forever.
Until it closes or it's deleted.
Right.
Yep, so it's unrestricted. There's nothing that says it has to be changed. Can a withheld listing be shown?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, at the broker and client discretion. Yes. Can a property go under contract while incoming soon or withheld status?
No.
Going to no withheld, yes.
Withheld.
I mean, you
Answer
got,
is yes. Showings are not permitted in coming soon status, but we all know that we can write an offer on a coming soon, right? Can.
yep.
Means we didn't see it. So you have a coming soon listing, you receive an offer from an agent. They haven't seen it because it's coming soon and you didn't allow that. Should you wait until it becomes active to present the offer?
No, you have to present.
That's right. Thank you for that. You get an offer, you present it. Now, what if your seller says, don't be showing me all this stuff every 5 minutes. I don't want to see anything until Friday night at 7 o'clock.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. You still have to send it to them.
You're
No, I don't
supposed
think
to,
so.
and they send you an email and they say, I do not want any offers until 7 o'clock on Friday night. And you have it in writing, it's probably okay. But
I'd
you know
still send
what?
it to them.
I would still, I'm with Mona, I would still present it.
I would.
Yep,
The law says we have to, we have to.
all right, so you're writing the marketing description for your new listing. Which is better? Which of these words would be better? Perfect for entertaining or perfect home for kids to play?
Oh, man. No kids.
Right.
Entertaining.
So I want you all to think about whenever you're writing your words, we only talk about the home, the features of the home. Stay away from who you think should live in the property. None of this first-time home buyer, perfect for a retired couple. Please eliminate that from your vocabulary. We're not to tell what we think or who should live in a property.
Discrimination.
Perfect for everyone.
There you go. I'll take that, Mona. Yep.
Everyone will love this yard.
If you're struggling for words when you're writing your marketing, let me know. I've got lists, tons of different scenarios that you can use. So pre-written, it would be approved. I put together, I found this graph and I wanted to share it with you. Did you know specialty or niche agents? And if you remember a while back, hopefully you got to listen to the podcast with Sarah Bonney, and she said, if you find your niche, you will get rich. And
Ooh,
I thought that was great. So I want to talk to you a minute about designations. And I went and printed out all the different designations that are available to you now, and through NAR, through the National Association of Realtors. And most of them you can do online. I know Neil recently took the senior. Neil, what's your new designation?
Senior Real Estate Specialist, SRES.
Oh, great.
So I don't know if you can see all of these different specialties, but I would suggest you look into it, especially since with COVID, they're still offering a lot of them online. You might be able to, every night spend an hour or something and earn a designation. And as you can tell, based on this data, look how much more income agents make by having designations. So I'm going to tell you that if I were licensed and working in that park office, I'm going to go to those condos, because I think that's really picking up. I think the multifamily properties are picking up. At some point, short sales maybe coming back. I don't know with this market.
And I hope.
Oh, thanks.
I hope not either.
I hope-
Sorry, my phone went off.
Jamie and I are working a short sale right now.
Are you?
Really?
Okay.
Ooh. Ooh.
Can you guys see all the different, so there's one on here for green friendly properties. And you might think that's kind of a funny one, but I will tell you, it's the highest that agents make more. So I remember about 10 years being in downtown Chicago when they were building houses then already that were green. So we have foreign investments, luxury real estate. I think all of you should look into getting that designation. Affordable housing, commercial properties, dang it. Sorry, should turn my phone off. Commercial properties, second vacation homes, investment properties, condos, relocation, military, there's a good one. Multifamily properties, residential properties, short sales, property management and or rentals. And then the lowest is no specialties.
Oh,
So I've printed that out. If any of you are curious, or just go to the National Association of Realtors and type in designations and certifications. And this was something too, some facts that I found. Did you know the median sale price for homes in the United States increased 18.5% from August 2020 to August 2021, according to the Federal Finance Agency.
unbelievable. And more.
And yeah, in areas in St. Louis, it definitely has more even. But that was, I know I realize that's been 6 months ago, but the data was interesting.
Still going.
Okay, anybody have any questions, concerns? I will tell you, so I got all of my information when you log into Maris and you do marismls.com, 2 tabs open at the top, right? One's Maris and the other one is products. You scroll all the way down to the very bottom under products. In blue, there's a link and it says forms, FORMS. If you click that, it'll bring up all these statuses that we talked about today in detail.
Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you,
Yep.
Lynn.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Anybody? All right, have a great weekend.
Yeah.
You too.
Okay.
Bye.
Okay, bye, guys.
Always great.